If you've been following so far, then in this video we'll have a look on the ins and outs of Newman, and more specifically we're gonna look at a more advanced usage of Newman. Now let's get started with this tutorial. As you remember from the previous video, we have managed to install Newman and to successfully run this collection. Now let's go back to Postman and see something there. So the first request, let's imagine that we want to introduce an error. And of course, for that case, I'm just gonna change the test. And you will see here that the test now is failing. But if I'm executing the collection again, you will see that the execution itself is still successful. There are no failed tests. So you see here failed column is 0. And you're probably wondering why exactly is this happening? And this is happening for one particular reason. The moment we went here and shared this link, this is like a snapshot from the collection as it was at that time. And if we don't click this update link, the collection will stay exactly the same. So Postman will not update this collection for us. And there are multiple possibilities on how to get around that. The first possibility is, of course, clicking the update link over and over again, but this doesn't work for all the situations, and again it's some manual work, and it will definitely not work if you're working inside a team. So first what I'll do is to save this collection as a file, and the way that I do it is go right near the collection, click the 3 dots and hit the export button, select the latest version, select the latest possible version of the collection. In my case this is version 2.1. I'm gonna click export, and inside a folder I will save the collection with a name that is given by Postman. Now when I open the terminal window again, I can go inside the folder and let's simply list the files here, and you will see that I'll have a file here, Postman collection and so on. So this is the name of the file. Now, if I want to execute this collection, all I have to do is, as previously, Newman run, and then I will type in the name of the collection. If you're unsure about the name, or if you have a particularly long name, I will always recommend that you put double quotes between the name, so that this string looks properly. So let's now hit enter. And now you will see that Postman executed this collection. And now the request is failing because the status code is not 201. And exactly what I wanted to demonstrate is that now you have a file, you have a representation of your collection on your file system, and then Newman can run that file again. And what you can do with this file is to put it in a Git repository, commit it every time you make a change. Of course, that process isn't that great, but this is an option on how you can make the communication between Postman and Newman by exporting the collection every time you make any changes to it. Okay, there's one more possibility on how to do that. And for that, we're gonna first open the documentation of Newman. So the documentation of Newman is available online, and I'll be posting a link in the description so that you can check it out as well. I'll highly recommend you look over it because you will find a lot of useful stuff inside. And we're gonna explore some of the options that are inside the documentation, but it's not possible in this tutorial to go over each and every configuration, but hopefully we'll cover the most important ones. Now, right here in the documentation, we're gonna go right here back where it says using Newman with the Postman API. And this is a process that takes some steps to complete, but I'm sure you'll be very satisfied with the result. Now, what is the Postman API? The Postman API is a way to interact with your collections by using an API. So if your Postman app is already connected with an account, you already have an account at Postman. And by generating an API key, you can use an account to access your collections. So let me show you exactly what I mean. I'm gonna click here, generate an API key. I'm gonna select the workspace where my collection is in. And then I have here a tab called integrations. You can browse integrations. You will see here the Postman API. And I can get here an API key. And this is the API key that has been generated now. And I can use this API key to access my collection. So let's see what happens next. Now, I can take this address from here and go to Postman. And I will replace the API key with the API key I have previously seen. So now let's hit the send button and see what comes back. And this is a list of all my collections. There are a lot of collections. And I'll be looking for the collection called Postman collection. And now I have to make a note of this particular ID. So now what I can do is to get the collection link by using the UID. So all I have to do is in collections to get this ID now before the API key optional parameter. So this will look something like collections / and now I'll put this ID. And now this is the request that I have here, and I'm using the API to retrieve it. So again, the UID is what you have previously seen, and this is the address on how it should look like. Now, let's take this address now, go back to the terminal. I'm gonna clear everything. So I'm gonna type in Newman, run, and between double quotes, I will post the link that I previously had. So this is the link to my collection with the API key inside, referencing a particular collection in my entire collection requests. So now let's run. And you will see that the tests now are failing here. So let's go back to Postman and fix them. And the tests that were failing are the tests that were here. So let's make sure locally that everything is still working. In the background, Postman already synchronized the collection that I had. Now, after I made a change, I can run the same thing again. And you will see that I have no other errors and I didn't need to export any files or something like that. So basically, these are your main options on how you can integrate between Postman and Newman. You can either generate a link, which you will have to manually update every time you make any changes. You can export your collection as a JSON file and put it inside Git or wherever you like and make all your changes there. Or you can use the built-in API of Postman and do that. Of course, if you have the Pro account, you have the possibility of working in a team and multiple people can work on the same collection and make changes. So my advice would be to try all of them to get an idea on how they work, and then you will be able to better understand everything.